All right. So, welcome to the season 2 wrap up of Retro Wednesdays. Um, I have to admit that there's a small part of me that's a little surprised that we made it through 2 seasons because I don't know, like you get tired. Like once you get into doing something for so long that you kind of get tired of it. But we've managed to do 46 episodes and one 24-hour live stream, which I know isn't exactly like a Retro Wednesdays episode, but I kind of lump it together. And this little thing is just a talk where we kind of wrap up the season. We talk about our experience and um, I like to think of it as if you're a person who's not doing videos on YouTube or not recording your gameplay, or you're just curious about our experience doing this as like non-professional, non-lifetime YouTube people who are trying to like make millions of dollars and get billions of subscribers and whatever. Like we're doing this mostly for fun, and it's a chance for us to sort of like just share our experience and just talk a little bit through it. Um, so our first question that we lined out was how do you compare this season where we did a lot of different games and we even got into some Famicom and we did a whole bunch of different things. How do you compare this to season 1, Brett?
Uh, I looked into this question a little bit, and to be honest, I think this season is, as far as the content, is just as fun and just as good as season one. I know that's kind of a cop out, but I felt like the formula we used before was, you know, made the videos enjoyable for me to watch, and I don't necessarily know if that translates to anyone else. But I mean, we've mentioned in the past the point of us doing this is not really to get subscribers. It's more to document our collecting and our time together. And then the second thing is that I think this season we kind of figured out what works and what doesn't work as far as production quality. So getting the levels proper and setting up the mics properly, and this is all, of course, Sean. I literally show up and that's it. I do nothing, whereas Sean does all. Not only does he do the performance, he also edits the videos and promotes everything. I mean, I am the least involved, and I equate that to something like if you've ever been in a band, the singer does nothing and just shows up, and that's it. Doesn't have to carry any gear, whereas all the other musicians have to carry all their gear back and forth, turn it on, make sure it works, and make sure the sound is right, and do the sound check, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of feel like I've been in a couple bands, and this is my time to finally be the singer. And I guess maybe that sucks for Sean, but...
Well, it's ironic because I'm always the singer in the band, so now it's like my turn to deal with some shit.
yeah.
Although I have done my fair share of roadieing, for the record. I remember there was a band you were in, and our friend Art was the drummer, and we were playing at you guys were playing it. I wasn't in the band, but you guys were playing at somebody's party, and they were in the backyard, and Art and I had to lift his drums over the fence because there was no fence door, and I remember picking up the bass drum. And I don't know what I was thinking, but like I used like a swinging motion to get it up like high enough for him to grab it. And literally as I swung the bass drum up, I felt every muscle in my barely used non-working out arms like just snap in horror as I did that. And it was like the worst experience of my life. And I was like walking around like a gorilla for like the rest of the week because my arms were all like fucking out of their sockets or whatever. But anyway, and in truth, like now that we've done this for a little while, I mean, now we have a setup where you're at, and there's a setup where I'm at. So like you've done sort of the same thing. It's just I kind of did it through trial and error, and then you decided you wanted to do a setup here too. So we have setups in both places now. So I don't want to make it like I'm schlepping equipment back and forth and going through all this stuff. I have to agree with you that I think that the production value has gone up, and I'm sure some people are looking at our videos and being like, what production value? But if you compare like our first videos when we were doing like Super Mario Brothers and we had that one fucking shit mic in between the two of us, and it was like you could kind of hear me sometimes and like we couldn't really hear Brett, and then like you would hear all this fucking background noise and it was just like a mess. it has gotten better. I've learned a little bit more about audio engineering, which is kind of fun, and I'm hoping to get some more. I actually, it's one of the things that has changed from season 1 to season 2 is that it sounds weird, but like I care a little bit more about the production value. Where I'm like, you know, the goal of this, like Brett said, is that like we're not here to like this is not a money making operation. I don't give a shit if 10 people or 10,000 people watch our videos, but it is nice to know that some people take the time to watch. And I realized as I was working on these things and editing them that I was like, even though I don't want to spend the rest of my life like being a video editor and putting in fucking special effects and crazy transitions, because I think in a lot of ways that's one of the things that modern YouTube channels do to like take away from the lack of gameplay footage. I do think that anyone who's going to watch our stuff should, I don't want to put out like a bad product just because I'm lazy. I'd rather put out a pretty good product that has some production value in it, but it also gets across what we're trying to do, which is, document our gameplaying experience, which, is a little bit different than your standard Let's Play channel, because most of the time, like, at least in my experience, a lot of Let's Play channels are people that don't know anything about a game, just put a game in and just try to, like, figure it out. And I think we've moved on from that sort of approach, and I think we've moved on a little bit from, like, having to do comedy, so to speak, for everything. Like, I know that I felt like, at least in the first season, like, I had to find games that we could make fun of, or, like, find games that, like, we could do funny things off of, because my thought was that, if we're funny, people will watch that and they think it's funny, and then we can kind of like, be like the comedy Let's Play show. But the two things I realized as got into this more was A, every single person tries to do that, so we would just be like everybody else, and B, like, that's not what I want to do. I want to have relatively serious conversations about games, have fun with it at the same time, but like not make it about how many dick and fart jokes I can make in a hour session. Like, I'd rather have a gameplay video that we get through and we talk a little about the game, we talk about our experience with it, and then if people disagree with our experience or say that we're doing it wrong, they can just let us know, and that's that. It doesn't have to be like a constant comedy series. So to me, that was like the biggest change from season 1 to season 2, is that the production got a little bit better. I think we started to get more of a focused direction in what we wanted to do with games, that it wasn't about like, it was more about like finding games that were really fun to play, and possibly beat. We don't beat every game that we try, but it is nice when we manage to pull that off. But I like that's sort of where it moved from season 1 to season 2. Season 1 was a lot more like, let me just find every shitty game I can think of and we'll just play that and get annoyed for half an hour, and that was that. Let's see. Next question. What is something surprising that you learned during season 2?
Am I going first here?
Yeah, you can go ahead. We'll just go that way.
I think the biggest one is that some of the games that I really thought were good or that I'd enjoy playing a lot, when we ended up playing them together, a lot of the flaws showed up, and like, I kind of got brought back down to reality because I had another person like critiquing and actually critically playing the game. So like, for the one that sticks out in my brain is Russian Attack, where like, I love that game, and no real reason. It's not that great. And then when we played through it, like, all the flaws just kind of came out and smacked me in the face. And,
I have another one that did that, Total Recall. Because I felt that game was way better than it was. And it just sucked ass through a straw. Like, it was so bad. That fight with the Hobo King may literally be the worst thing in video games I've ever done.
Yeah, I already knew Total Recall was shit. I just love Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And I thought the game was bad, but I could like tolerate it. But I'd never gotten to the Hobo King. Once I got to the Hobo King, that fight changed me completely. It's so tedious and so bad. It just any merit the game had went right out the window.
Yeah.
So
I very much agree.
And then the only other thing that I learned, which is kind of more of a confirmation than anything else, is just, small little modifications that are made, especially when a game is changed from, let's say, Japan to the U.S. Even small changes translate to pretty big differences in gameplay. Like, again, Russian Attack, like, there's a couple changes that they made in the Famicom version, or that they made bringing it over to the U.S. I can't remember what it was, but two things that are small that actually translate to big gameplay differences. One, in Russian Attack or Famicom, when you die, you respawn immediately until you run out of lives.
Yeah.
And that's not like that in the NES version. And then the second thing is, if you drop off of a ledge in the Famicom version, you fall straight down, whereas in the NES version, you actually fall forward. So those sorts of changes, while they don't seem huge, really affect the game. And or even Bayou Billy. I don't know if that was in this season. I think
Yeah, it was early on.
Bayou Billy and Mad City. I mean, that's a pretty huge difference where you want to pick up Mad City if you're going to go for one of them. So, yeah. What about you?
So, my first thing that I was surprised about through season 2 is that I think that that you and I collectively are better gamers than we give each other credit. Especially, like, I don't want to speak for you, but for me at least, like, I think that when I think about me playing video games, I generally think that I suck, like, really bad. Like, I don't practice, I don't go home and I'm like, the first thing I do is fire up my NES and, like, try to beat Ninja Gaiden or something crazy. And I think that I don't want to say, like, we're, like, toot our own horns and be like, yeah, we're, like, elite and we're the best NES players ever. We're going to be on awesome games done really quick or whatever it is. But, like, I do think that when we beat a game, I'm very impressed that we're able to pull that off. And I mean, I don't know. I'm sure other people do this where they prep and they practice for, like, weeks and they play a game for a while, so they have a lot of talking points. We don't tend to do that. Like, we'll play a game maybe once or twice and be like, yeah, this game might be cool to talk about, or it might be something that we go from memory and say, I remember playing this game a long time ago and it might not be that bad. And there were a couple of examples, like, even like, one that we didn't actually play before, but Mad City, even though it was Bayou Billy. I mean, I played Bayou Billy since I was a little kid, and, like, the fact that I was able to beat Mad City, or we were able to beat Mad City, like, relatively easily, was, like, I feel like even though the game is easier, it's still a huge accomplishment, because it's, like, not that many people have beaten that game, easily. I think that was one of the things I learned. I learned that even though, like we said before, like, we're trying to do a little more production and add some more audio, and I'm doing a little more editing, it's still a lot of fun. Like, I'll sit there and edit, and I won't lie. I mean, I'll come home from work on Monday and be like, I gotta edit a fucking video for Wednesday, and then, like, during the actual Wednesday is the day where I'm, like, trying to be at work and I'm doing work things and I'm uploading the video and I'm typing up the blog post at the same time, and it's like, it can be I can complain about it, definitely, but it's still definitely a lot of fun. Like, even today, like, I was going through some of our season 2 episodes, just, like, looking back on what we had done to, like, talk for tonight to talk about, and, like, there were so many just absolutely hilarious moments that, like, I just, like, that cracked me up, and, like, moments that I was like, man, this is still so much fun to watch and experience. And even though I'm a participant in it, it's so much fun to just sit back and watch our episodes. I know it's probably really egotistical, but I almost always have Retro Wednesdays on, like, in the background during the day, so I can just, like, remember what we did. I think the other thing that was surprising was,
Before you move on, I just want to say, I do the same thing. I watch our videos constantly, and it's fun. And like I said before, it's a lot. It's about documenting our time together playing games, and so it's almost like, even though we live kind of far away from each other, we still get to hang out when I watch.
Right.
When I watch the videos.
Same thing.
So, if I can encourage people to do this themselves, I mean, that's a really good reason to do it. Just like people do home movies and all that sort of thing. This is another way to do that and to kind of be nostalgic and feel like you're hanging out with your friend or your family members even when you're not physically there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't have to do it on YouTube. You could literally just have, a capture card running, or like, I don't know, get a VCR and stick a VHS tape in there. You can put that together for like $15 nowadays, and just you don't have to have a mic. You could just do it on your laptop with a built-in speaker or headset, whatever. It's definitely opened my eyes to the idea of recording gameplay. Like, I used to think about it back in the day. I would look at stuff like Twitch and I would be like, what? Looking at Twitch was the first time I felt the generational divide between my generation of gaming and like the now generation of gaming, because I'm like, who's gonna sit there and watch people play games? Like, I don't get it. But the more I've done it, the more I'm like, yeah, there is definitely something to this. And that was actually the other surprising thing that I learned, was that when we did that 24-hour live stream, despite the fact that we had all kinds of equipment fun before it went live, with like Brett putting together the most outrageous cable setup to get one thing to work. It's like 15 fucking adapters. And like the fact that like we had never live streamed before, and there's like people bitching at us in the chat thing that we're not responding to them and not realizing we had to respond to them, to the fact that YouTube gaming will archive only like 12 hours or like 6 hours of your shit and not tell you. So we lost about 2/3 of the actual archive, which made me so upset. But I've learned that I actually really, really, really like live streaming, and that was honestly like one of the most fun things I've ever done, like ever. It was definitely tiring, and I'm definitely, like I said, really upset that we don't have all the footage. But it was a little bit different than doing a Retro Wednesdays episode, because I always feel like I go into an episode like with ideas about what things I can talk about, and with the live stream, it was just like, yeah, what do you feel like playing? Let's just play some shit and see what happens. And like, we had our buddy Al stop by, and we like fought our way through Mega Man 4, and like we beat so many games that night. It was ridiculous. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, we beat Splatterhouse, Mega Man. You destroyed Bionic Commando. It was like the craziest thing I ever seen in my life.
That game's pretty easy though.
Yeah, but still, like, I can't beat it. There's no way. But like, there are so many games that we beat, and it was really fun. And I learned that I actually want to live stream more, and it opened my eyes. I'm not, like, we still haven't done it yet with Retro Wednesdays, but like, the one thing that I know most people ask us about, they're like, why don't you have a camera live? Why don't you have a camera? And that's like the big thing. All the video game Let's Players and live streamers, everything, always have video camera on the person playing, so that way you can see their reactions and stuff. And when I first thought about it, I was like, why does anyone want to stare at my ugly face? Like, why does anyone want to see that? But then after doing the live streaming thing, I'm like, I'm not totally opposed to it anymore. Like, maybe one time we'll do a Retro Wednesdays where we'll stick a camera up and whatever. You can watch us get mad while we play a game or whatever. But I definitely realized I want to stream a lot more, and definitely do another 24-hour extravaganza. Brett, what was your favorite moment in Season 2, video or otherwise?
I have a couple. So I guess I should only pick one, but I'm going to just say two. The first one was definitely in Spartan X2. There's this one level where you're on a moving platform and there's guys constantly falling from the sky. And I was trying as hard as I possibly could to get by it. And you're sitting there being like, Brett, just dodge the guys and get through. And I got real angry for a second, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And I was kind of like, he was acting like a dad would act, telling his son how to do a sports thing. And so it was kind of like Sean said that I was having a therapy session. So hopefully we can like kind of link to that part, because I thought it was pretty funny. Sean making fun of me and how bad I was doing, but I was really trying as hard as I could. So it was funny. And then the second thing was just, in general, the Tom Sawyer episode was very satisfying, because it was a constant battle, and we just felt like it was really hard. And so finally beating that game, even though the end is kind of anticlimactic, I felt like pretty proud of not that we're great, but I was proud that we were able to finish that game. And another, interestingly enough, around Tom Sawyer, I remember buying it, putting it in, playing it for 30 seconds and thinking, holy crap, this game sucks. I'll never play it again. And then playing through it with someone where I could take little breaks and watch someone else do stuff really changed the game. And I think you can extend that out to all gaming, where, having someone next to you, playing with you, to give you breaks and stuff really helps that process along to be more enjoyable.
I like that answer. That's a good one. I'm glad you had more than one because I think I have like 5. My 2 gaming ones were playing Mad City because, one of the things that we always talk about is how we played games when we were little, and there's no way on earth we were ever going to be able to beat those. Like some of the games, you just don't. You literally, as a kid who's in 5th grade, like you just don't have the hand-eye coordination, and the muscle memory, and the patience, and the thought process, to beat some games. I mean, maybe there were kids that probably did, but like I was definitely not one of them. So being able to like play Mad City and finally having a game, like I know I've mentioned it a billion times, even just in this recording, but to me, like that game was so much better compared to the American version. Like it made me just so happy that I was like, there's a version of Bayou Billy that is good. And I mean, I'm not saying the American one is bad, but I'm saying that the American one is it's unapproachable because it's so difficult.
Bad. The American version is bad.
All right, well, it's just so difficult that it takes so much away from it. And I feel like the Japanese version was so much better, and it was like, this is the game that I wanted to play as a kid. So that was definitely a highlight. And again, like I've said it a billion times, but like if you don't own that game, just go get it. It's totally worth it.
Mad City's worth it.
Mad City's worth it. The other one, gameplay-wise, was New Ghostbusters 2++. Again, another game that the United States didn't have, but it was a game that I was just so blown away with about how fun it was. And even though the AI is hilarious, like, I was watching that episode today, and just like listening to how frustrated we were, and like we would have our partner want to go like left, but he would go right. And there was one part where like your guy like literally ran off the screen and just disappeared. And it was like, well, now what the fuck do I do? And then like eventually he came back, but it's such a great game. Like I was such a great experience, and almost made me upset because we didn't have it as a kid. And it's like, how is that possible that they didn't release that in the United States? Because it was such a great game. It was the Ghostbusters game we should have had. The other ones I would put like, not necessarily moments, but excuse me. But like favorite parts about the season was definitely I felt better about not making all of our episodes about comedy. Like I don't know if it was just me, but I always felt like we had to have a really funny experience. It always had to be funny. It always had to be like dick and fart jokes and like turd references and everything. And like we still do that a lot, but it used to be my focus. Like how many turd references can I shove into an episode? And now I don't feel the need to do that. Like now I'm just like, well, whatever. I'll just talk about it. If I see something that looks like a turd, a turd's a turd, I'm going to call it. Yeah, if it looks like a turd and it smells like a turd, it's a turd. But
looks like a turd, quacks like a turd.
But I'm not going to like go out of my way to be like, let me go find turd games that have turds in them so I can say the word turds over and over again, which I just did. Which is something I was really happy about. And I also thought that even though like I mentioned like how I tend to downplay my level of skill with games, but I do definitely feel like as a gamer, I've gotten way better. Like I don't tend to just like rush into things. Like I tend to try to think my way around it, which is something that's different than when I was younger, where it was like, well, whatever, I just got to go as fast as I can and hopefully I can do it. So that was kind of like one of my favorite moments, was realizing that even though like, I don't think I'm at that god tier level or anything, but I feel like I have gotten like way better at playing games. So what were your least favorites? Moments or games or whatever?
Honestly, I think my least favorite was RoboCop 2 and 3 and Darkman. So pretty much the games that Ocean developed were the most terrible games I've ever played in my life. And the reason that it bugs me so much is that there are 3 games released late in the life cycle that all share the same terrible engine, terrible physics, and it's just annoying because they had really cool stuff to work with, and they totally fucked it up. And it's like thinking about it right now makes me mad to think that there's 3 games, RoboCop 2, 3, and Darkman, that could have been at least mediocre enough to play through. And what you get is just shit.
Yeah. I actually had RoboCop 2 and 3 on my list as well as my least favorite. I mean, any game, there are games in Season 2 that I was definitely disappointed in, but for whatever reason, those 2 games just made me so upset and like so just disappointed and like run down. I mean, the most depressed I've ever been playing a video game is still far and away The Hunt for Red October. Like, I never wanted to just like sell my game collection and just not play video games again. Compared to like when we played through that game. But RoboCop 2 and 3 definitely put me in that same mindset. I was also really surprised that like Ocean, like I said it today actually, I was talking about with some people on Twitter that, you know, it's easy for people to look at a game distributor like LJN and be like, they're the worst company, they put out all these shitty games. But I don't know, man. I feel like Ocean is so much worse. I feel like all their games are just all garbage. I haven't seen or heard from anyone who has a game that was made or released by Ocean that was good. And it was very, very disappointing because I feel like a franchise like RoboCop is such great source material, and they just completely blew it, like on such an epic level. Like, nothing works. RoboCop 3 was so bad I can barely remember how it was. All I remember is getting to the jetpack level and dying laughing about the jetpack and like dying instantly. It was so bad. My other least favorite thing was the for capturing. I'm moving on from it, but I'm using an Elgato Game Capture HD and their software that came with it. And the more I've used it, the more I've grown to like really, really, really hate it. So I would put that as my least favorite moment too, because we've lost about 5 or 6 episodes because the recording would just turn itself off halfway through for no reason, or when I go to render it, it just errors out continuously and I can't fix it. So that's something I'm looking into from a technical standpoint that I think was my least favorite moment. I mean, even when we did the 24-hour live stream, we ended up switching. Part of the reason why it wasn't the most beautiful thing I've seen was because we had to switch from the Elgato live streaming to open source broadcaster on the fly. And like we literally just like guessed at settings, and they weren't perfect, but you know, whatever. Because the Elgato just would crap out on us after like 10 minutes. And I was very disappointed with that because it's something that came highly rated to me from other people and is something that a lot of people use, but I'm beginning to wonder if it's really just designed for modern game consoles and it just happens to be able to do composite video, and maybe there's another option out there like Hauppauge, the PVR, the box that some of the other people use, or using just a straight capture card and recording it directly, because I'm kind of at my wit's end with the Elgato box, and I may just use that for like modern streaming if I ever do that stuff. Yeah, so that was my least favorite stuff. So what do you want to do more of going forward?
I think one of the things that I was really surprised about, and Sean kind of touched on this, is I really enjoyed streaming because it was a different approach to what we normally do. So it took the format that I enjoy so much and it made it so that we could play any game we wanted, ones that I know I can beat, ones that I really enjoy, and that was probably the most fun I ever had playing video games. We did 24 hours straight. At no point did I feel tired that I had to go to sleep. I mean, afterwards, of course, we were all annihilated, but it was just great to sit down, play through some really great and some not so great games with your best friend. So I think I encourage people to try this and use the whole format, because the format of having 2 people and switching off, that allows you cool down time. It allows you to analyze your tactics. It allows you to stop being so bored, and I've tried playing games by myself, and it's just not the same. It's so much more fun, so much easier to do it with a friend, and I think that's kind of how we all grew up playing, and so practicing by yourself is cool, but I think doing it with a friend is even better.
Yeah.
The second thing I'd like to do more of, and I know that we will, is Famicom. One of the things that I really like about the Famicom is there are countless games that never reached our shores, so to speak. Lots of changes made to existing games, and that's something that really excites me. Like I really like to seek out Famicom games that are good and we never even heard of, or just being able to own the physical version of a game that's really rare in the U.S. that is still pretty good and actually attainable on the Famicom. I don't know if that's still true, but a lot of the games like Panic Restaurant, Little Samson, Chip and Dale 2, DuckTales 2, all these games, the U.S. release is unattainable and frankly not worth it, whereas the Famicom version is a lot more reasonable, although not great, and I know prices are going up, but at least it gives you a way to play them on real hardware. And the kind of games I play aren't text heavy, aren't story heavy,
Right.
not necessary to know Japanese, although that's a secondary benefit of the Famicom is, for someone like me who is at a very, very, very casual pace trying to learn Japanese and read Japanese, I hope to one day be able to kind of take a rudimentary Famicom game and kind of translate it on the fly so I can play it. So when I was in Japan, I actually bought some RPG, not RPG, but like adventure-y type games where you need to read it. And I'm hoping at some point I can kind of go through painstakingly translating them to kind of understand what's going on. And the last thing was, in general, I think I'm looking forward to beating more games in my collection. This whole show that we do, if you want to call it that, really helped me put a dent in the games that I beat in my collection. When I first started collecting, and even earlier than that, just games in general, it was always about getting as many games as I possibly could and having access to any game at any time. And now I have a different approach. I definitely still have that whole, like, I want to get every game all the time, but this allows me to focus more on trying to play the games, enjoy them, and hopefully beat them. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm looking forward to. What about you, Sean?
No, I mean, some of them are the same that you mentioned. Like, definitely live streaming. I'm definitely interested in doing that. Like, we're already kind of thinking about our next 24-hour extravaganza, which will be a lot of fun. I'm hoping to increase the number of participants. Then that way, it's not all on Brett and I, and then we don't have to sit through like Sean at 5 o'clock in the morning trying to beat fucking Daydreaming Davy and wanting to kill myself because I can't beat it because I'm too tired. Fuck that game. And so that's definitely one. I already kind of touched on it, but maybe adding a camera and adding some more visual to it. Sometimes I know that it bothers me that I'm always like, I wish even just little things like being able to take like a quick video of the game that we're gonna play that just is like the cartridge itself. Like being able to do stuff like that would be nice. I'm more interested in actually doing some Famicom originals as well. Like one of the games that we did during the live stream, which we're gonna do, hopefully in season 3, is that I can't say the name of it, but the Fat Penguin game.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about that game, and playing through that, I was like, man, I really want to play Famicom games that I've never played before that there aren't comparable ones in the US just because they're never got released or whatever. Like those are so fun. Like even the translation that we did or the translation game that we have for Miracle of Amana, that was so fun. And like I want to do some of those. Like I'm really excited about that possibility about playing some games that like were never released in the United States but they exist for the Famicom and being able to experience those because some of those are really fun. And maybe it's my own naivete of not knowing that those games are out there, but it's sort of like these are new Nintendo games for me, and it's like We haven't had that since 1990, so that's like really interesting to me. Um, Not it's probably not this season, but I also started thinking about like even when we were doing the live streaming, like expanding our repertoire or like our media or source material to like even more platforms. Like even the other day I was talking with another retro game person on Twitter, and I mentioned the Microprose game Pizza Tycoon, and they had never heard of it, and that's one of my favorite games, like period. And I started explaining it about how it's this really zany, really fun old Microprose game, and they were like, "Man, I would love just like they were like I would give anything to see a gameplay video of that." And I was like, "Wow, I never thought about doing like abandonware and retroware like PC games." And there's tons of games that you and I have played, like Quarantine, all the Apogee stuff, and like it would be fun to like do some of those and like have those recorded and like maybe get into I have a very sick affinity for Sega CD games, so there's always those that I've always wanted to like talk about, and just being able to like look past, like I know that we're still gonna do like a ton of Nintendo stuff, and we're not even remotely like we've barely made a dent in how many games in the NES library and Famicom library now that we can look at. But it opened my eyes a little bit to being able to look at different platforms, and like I was never a big Sega Genesis kid growing up, so there's like tons of games on there that I've never played that I'm like, why have I not played, and why can't we do those as something for a live stream or something else? I think it's about it for like what I want to do more of going forward. I mean, I'm always interested in adding production value and doing more things. I know one of the things on my list this year is to actually make like a trailer for the channel, and um I located a theme song that I'm gonna try to incorporate into our episodes at the beginning and the end, which will be kind of nice, and that'll be fun. Um, so I guess the last thing to do is to do shameless plugs for season 3. So what do you feel people who are interested in watching our stuff should look at for season 3?
As far as looking forward to, it's a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do more of, but essentially, we will be doing more Famicom games and comparing them to their U.S. equivalents, which I think is one of my joys. I really like to see what was changed, why did they do it, why do I think they could do it, and all that sort of thing. And also, sometimes there's Japanese pop culture or just Japanese cultural references in games that don't really make sense until you play the Famicom version, and then you kind of see like why Kid Nicky had this weird item in it, that like weird gourd or whatever it is that you're picking up. Like it doesn't really make sense until you realize that it's a Famicom game that was
Right.
ported. So those sorts of things are interesting to me. And then the other thing to look forward to is just I'm hoping by doing more Famicom, we find some more obscure stuff,
Yeah.
and not just for the sake of obscurity, but really, helping. If one person finds Miracle of Almana because of our channel, then I feel like we've done a pretty awesome thing, because spreading the gospel, so to speak, of games that are great and maybe should have been brought over but weren't for whatever reason. I think raising awareness for that is a really cool thing, and I would appreciate that if others did that, because it gives me more games to play. And that you kind of touched on this with when you talked about Miracle of Almana and Yume Penguin Monogatari. Like
That was the name.
This is you playing the game for the first time, as if you were, buying the game off the shelf.
Right.
And that's not a feeling you can recreate. Like, there's only so many times you can feel that feeling in your lifetime, because there's only so many games that were made for it. And, people are still developing stuff. I just actually picked up that game Mad Wizard,
Mm-hmm.
which was a newer game and sold through Retro USB. So people are still making games, but it's cool to, like, play a Konami game that you've never played before
Right.
for Nintendo. Like that, there's not too much that compares to that as far as video games. So that's pretty much what I have. And I actually have a question, one more question after this that I was just going to kind of screwball.
Yeah, sure.
Throw at you after you're done with this.
I think you kind of touched on the same things I was going to say, like about what I'm excited about for this season is that we this is the first season where we have sort of a centralized theme or a focus to go around, and I think that's going to be nice to be able to sort of shape the entire season. Like it's going to be all Famicom. It's MP Retro Gaming versus Japan is the entire season. We're going to do all Famicom or US to Famicom comparisons. There's not going to be like any oddball games or random this or random that. It's going to be focusing on that, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I'm not a person who spends hours and hours on YouTube watching other video channels. Like I watch a small amount of them, and if you watch the teaser trailer for season 3, like there are 4 or 5 that I put on there, and I'm sure there are plenty that I left out, but these were channels that I've interacted with the channel owners while we were sort of building our brand and building our channel up, and they were very helpful and very cool. So I wanted to put them like on a little special shout out. I mean, not that it's now they got the MP Retro bump, 10 million subscribers done, but looking through a lot of the channels, like I don't see a lot of people doing that. Like I don't see people going and finding like obscure Famicom games or being like, what the hell is the difference between Double Dragon 3 US and Famicom? What kind of things should I expect? Like, if I go out and buy the Mega Man Famicom versions, am I going to buy a completely different game compared to what the US has? And like in some cases no, and in some cases yes. And I think it's something really interesting, and at least in my experience, something that not a lot of people have done or delved into. So that I'm really interested in. I'm looking forward to getting even better at production, and sort of getting things right. I think that, the number one issue always for me is audio, and I think we've gotten that a lot better. There's always room for improvement, but it's definitely drastically improved over like Time Lord if you compare that together. I'm hopeful that possibly we'll be able to bring more people in and have like special guests every once in a while who will sit with us, and like we'll actually have them mic'd for a change and not like they have to yell across the friggin' room. I'm excited about that possibility. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm hoping for season 3 is like getting those kind of things underway and seeing how it turns out. And maybe this gives us an idea for like season 4. We can start to think about different thematic areas we want to touch on, so that way we keep each season sort of individualized and unique, as opposed to let's just find games and play them and see what happens. So your
My
sidewinder,
curveball.
yeah. Uh-oh.
So we've been doing this for a while now. I mean, a season doesn't translate to a year for us, but we've got maybe 50 recordings under our belt at this point. So I wanted to know how has doing this Retro Wednesdays, how has it affected your retro game collecting, and how has it affected your retro game playing?
That's a good one. I don't know if to me at least,
I can go first if you want to have some time to think about it.
No, I got an answer. I mean, I don't think that it's affected my collecting necessarily. Like I don't go to a game store and I'm like, oh, this game looks like shit. I bet we can play it and have a good time with it. There's certain times where I will hear about a game and someone will describe it to me and I'm like, all right, that sounds like, I'll give you an example. Like one of the games that I haven't put out yet, but we have done is Monster in My Pocket. And it's a game I never owned. I didn't really know a whole lot about, but then I saw it and I was like, everyone tells me it's a really great game. I should get it. So I picked it up, and then I was listening to the person at the store describe it to me, and as soon as I heard it, I was like, all right, this definitely sounds like a game we could do for Retro Wednesdays. And that was the first time that happened to me. Like I never go to a store and I'm like, I need to find Retro Wednesdays games, because it's like either that means that we're gonna have to find like really expensive games or games that are really shitty, and then we're gonna like laugh our way through it. And I didn't like that idea of like, hey, let's just play all shitty games and have a yuck fest about it, because I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like A, that's been done to death, and B, like, who cares? Like Crystal, like I'll give an example of one episode that I don't like anymore, and it's Crystal Mines, because it's like, who gives a shit? Like, why are we playing Crystal Mines? Who wants to watch us play Crystal Mines? What is there like some secret niche fan base of like thousands of Crystal Mines fans who are gonna watch this and be like, you guys have opened the floodgates, and now I worship the ground you walk on. So I don't think, in a very circuitous way to answer the first part of your question, I don't think there is any collecting impact. I think gameplay wise, it's definitely impacted me, that in the sense that it might not be the game that we're gonna do that night, but I definitely do spend more time playing the games in my collection. Not just for Retro Wednesdays, but just like for in general. I know that I'm one of those weird collectors that sometimes will buy a game and like clean it, make sure it works, and then not really dive into it. And I've really stopped doing that since we started doing recordings. Like I'll buy a game and I'll spend like 4 or 5 hours when I have free time to like try to play through it and say to myself, okay, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing? What can I do to try to beat this game by myself to see if it's possible and stuff like that. Like the one that comes to mind is Legends of Kage or Kage. I've been playing that game on and off even after we did our episode about it, and I've been going nuts trying to beat it. It's very hard, but it's something that I've noticed that I suddenly am way more consistent and way more persistent when I play games, especially if it's a game that we can't beat. That I'm like, okay, now I'm challenged to try to beat this game, and I really want to beat it. So that's definitely affected my gameplay. So what are your answers?
Well, I was just doing some thinking about, we've been doing this for a while, and I've been collecting for a little while now. It's, at least a couple years before we started doing this. Both of us actually kind of started at the same time. And, you would think that doing this together would make us tired of doing the collecting thing. And in my opinion, it's actually made me more, like, even worse. I spend more money on games now. It keeps me interested. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what I wanted to kind of make a point of, is that doing something like this yourself, again, encouraging others to do it, is going to create all sorts of pretty cool stuff for you. Number one, it will create a time every week or every other week where you dedicate to doing this, to playing old games.
Mm-hmm.
It'll make you more patient, like you said. It'll make you better overall, and it will keep you interested in the hobby. And so I think that it's really helpful to kind of perpetuate the hobby, because I've heard people say they've become stagnant sometimes. And I mean, it's going to happen to both of us, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But for now, I really think that if we didn't do this together, I feel like I probably would have slowed down a little bit. And then the other thing is, again, having someone to play in the same room as you kind of makes the playing aspect more fun, more accessible, and less tiresome. And it's like when you have a gym partner, and like some days you don't feel like going to the gym, but your gym partner says, come on, we need to go. And you do it.
Lift bro.
And then, it's like a lift bro. And then you do it, and you're like, I'm really glad I did that. I did have fun doing it. And that's kind of how, some days, we'll play and I just don't feel like playing anymore, but then you pass the controller and they play and you watch and you're like, oh, you know what? Here's what we need to do. Then you do it and you beat it, and then so it makes it more enjoyable.
The most, it just, I don't know why, and it always cracks me up. Every once in a while, I know, I can tell that we'll be playing a game and Brett will get in the, just like, he just goes into like fuck you mode, where he's like, I don't even care anymore. Like I'm just gonna like just do whatever, and if I die, I die. There was one part in Wrath of the Black Manta at the very end where there was this totem pole thing that you were fighting, and like I was dying laughing because when you watch the footage, like the totem pole like moves around and you're supposed to hit it, and it was basically like hit it from a distance and dodge the shots, and you just like ran in and just kneeled down and was like, I'm just gonna hit this thing one more time, then it's gonna hit me and I'm gonna win. And I don't know why, that just cracked me up so hard when I was watching it, because it was just the most like, I don't give a shit anymore, I just want to be done playing this game. But it worked out because we ended up beating it. Like I ended up having a fucking meltdown at the very end, and then you were able to beat it because I was just like, I was done. But yeah, it's definitely fun to have like someone to play with, because you can get, there's a point where you get like mentally fatigued and you just know you're just messing up because you're just tired and you're done. And it's so great to just pass the controller off and be like, okay, your turn. I'm going to take a break and like recharge my brain. And it helps because then you get a chance to just sit back and observe the game, be like, oh, now I understand why I was doing everything wrong. I was being way too aggressive, or I was too tired, or my hands weren't moving the way they wanted to, and so on and so forth. Um, yeah, it was a good question. So anyway, to conclude our wrap up of season 2, just want to say thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy some of the videos in season 2. There's some really good ones in there. And season 3 looks to be a lot more, even more fun. I'm real excited about doing all Famicom stuff and, really getting into that. We already have a pretty good list of games, and it's definitely going to grow. Suggestions are always welcome, so you can feel free to message us on Twitter or whatever, or on the channel discussion. And just if you have a game that you're like, I know this game's really good, I played it, or I've heard about it, or I saw this weird ass game that looked like a Nintendo game, but it was cut in half and it was pink and it had these symbols on it. You should try that. We're more than willing to at least listen, and if we can find the game, we'll give it a shot. So that was a good season 2, and here's to season 3 and a lot more fun stuff. So for Retro Wednesdays, until next time.